Get back out to Atlanta. Welcome in Josh Pate and Richard Johnson. And Josh, look, that was a little squirrely there late. For an Ohio State fan like myself, I was not feeling real good when it was an 8-point deficit with 4 minutes left. Give me your take, your reaction inside the stadium when Notre Dame decides to kick the field goal instead of going for it after they were down 31-7. You need the points. I felt like that slowed Notre Dame's momentum.
Jaws on the ground everywhere. I went to Marcus Freeman's postgame presser, Hakeem. I wanted to hear him talk about it. And look, what he said, I mean, technically made sense. He said it would have taken us from 16 to 13. Yes, still a 2-touchdown margin, but we're 4th and 9 if it was 4th and 5 or less. I get all that. But, man, it was 31-7 at one point. You are balling your way back into this thing, and you want to play the statistics game. I would argue it's much more likely that, you know, one versus the other made sense. Whatever. Look, they went the way they did. I was around a bunch of people, Richard, when he made the decision. I didn't hear a single reply other than, what is he doing right now?
Yes, and Josh, Michigan's been shaky this season.
Yeah.
Obviously, he had the kick to beat Penn State in the semifinal, but he has been shaky. And I know that was a gimme field goal, but apparently it wasn't a gimme because he clanked it off the goalpost. So, yes, I was disappointed in the call. I did not think it was the right call. I thought they should have gone for it on 4th down. They had already converted on 4th down multiple times in the game. You know, it wasn't like they weren't able to do that at times in the game. I thought they should have gone for it. 4th and 9, you know, whatever, and then you've got them backed up,
right,
if nothing else, coming out of their own end zone there.
Josh, how am I supposed to feel about this? And I know you're not going to tell me to feel happy or sad or indifferent about this. And I texted you earlier in the day, and I said I would 100% trade this natty for that loss to Michigan. And you said, I think I have some character concerns about you, my friend. We're going to have to talk about this. Well, now we have a chance to talk about this because you know I love to beat the rival, that team up north. And Meemaw would say, look, you got to beat Alabama if you're an Auburn fan. If you're Auburn, you got to beat Alabama. I get it. I get it. But they don't hang banners for beating Michigan. They hang a banner for winning a national championship.
Okay, so, look, I will, full disclosure here, admit this is not the time for me to give this tape because there's confetti at our feet.
Let it rip, baby. Let it rip.
Confetti at our feet as we speak.
I want it now.
But let me just
instant gratification.
Let me present this, okay? The way that I think this sport was built was rivalries. I think it's built on rivalries and tradition, okay? So the only thing that, in confidence, I texted Hakeem earlier today, was I think that the playoff, a national championship, that feels very man-made to me. It's great to win it, man. It's phenomenal to win it. But it almost feels like the rivalries were just there. It's like on the 8th day God created them. They were just always there. And I would even go a step further. I would say the Ohio State-Michigan thing is one of one. Because I've watched Alabama lose the Iron Bowl and go on to win a national championship. I didn't have this conversation. I heard Nick Saban say this a couple of weeks ago. He said, I mean, we lost the Iron Bowl. We won the title. No one cared that we lost the Iron Bowl. Not to denigrate the sanctity of the Iron Bowl. I feel like the dynamic around this rivalry is a little bit different than that. So, dude, celebrate all night and then tomorrow and the next day and the next day. I would just say it doesn't leave a hole. It doesn't make it feel hollow tonight to me. I would say, though, this is a very, very ironic situation where you have a team that just buzzsawed their way to win a title. 5 wins against top 5 teams is what they end up getting. And there's still that little voice in the back of your head, which is great for motivation for next year, that there's still something, despite all the confetti and the championship trophy, that we haven't done in quite a while.
Josh, I think that is what is beautiful about college football, and I think that will actually enhance the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry next year because Michigan fans, you just turned on your television, you watched Ohio State win a national championship, one of the best seasons they've ever had in school history, and guess what? For all time, you beat them in their house. Yes, the banners fly forever, but the pride that Michigan fans are going to have in the fact that they took this team down as a heavy underdog, I think it just adds more juice to the rivalry all summer and into next season.
Yep. Ryan Day is now 70-10. That includes 1-4 against Michigan, 4 losses in a row to the Wolverines. And Josh, you spent some time with Ryan Day preseason, and you know Ryan Day, and you know what he means to the program, and you know sort of the backlash that he has faced from the fans. You've heard Nick Saban call Ohio State fans crazy, and we are at times, and sometimes delusional. What does this mean for Ryan Day? Because to me, this is not a "I told you so," but this is a "be patient, I can deliver."
I'm really happy for him selfishly. I mean, I'm just telling you, taking the professional hat off for a second, I'm ecstatic for him. I think that he is no different a man right now in this moment than he was when he woke up this morning, than he was when they walked off the field a loser against Michigan. His Wikipedia page looks different now. The trophy case looks different now. But I felt like he was capable of this for quite a while. I feel like, Richard, he was in a zone that Kirby Smart was in not too long ago. No one talks about Kirby that way anymore because he won a couple of titles. But it wasn't but about, 36 or 48 months ago, real time, that people were saying he can't win the big one. He can't beat Nick Saban. He can't get over the hump, whatever that means. Well, the reality was it's really hard to win one. It's especially hard to win multiples, but it's really hard to win one. And so Kirby finally kept swinging. And the real skill is having your team in position to try for it every year. And eventually, right time found them in the right place. Right time finally found Ohio State. But they've been in the right place for a while, haven't gotten over the hump. So now he does. And so now some of the same people that criticized him not years ago, but weeks ago, will be the same people who go and delete all those tweets, and now they'll sing his praises. And I think about how fine the margins are, Richard. I think about a couple of years ago in this building against Georgia. What if the ball comes off a foot, a different trajectory? They beat Georgia. They go on to probably slaughter TCU, and this conversation's already moot. Well, it's moot now, except for the small Michigan caveat, but that's for next season. I'm happy for him, man.
Josh, I love that you bring up that it's hard. It's hard to win a national championship. Nick Saban got y'all messed up because Nick Saban made it look pretty doggone easy. It ain't that easy. It is difficult. It is hard. It takes work. It takes time, and it takes patience. And I know nobody in an Ohio State fan base wants to hear patience because you win pretty much every game you play. And so you're really frustrated when you can't surmount the hump. But you only need to look to the opposite side of the rivalry to see what patience gives you. You made fun of Jim Harbaugh for years because Jim Harbaugh couldn't get over the hump. Almost fired Jim Harbaugh after 2020's regular season. He had to make a bunch of changes. He did. Michigan was better for it. Michigan goes to Georgia, gets waxed in a semifinal, and then the next year they overcome and they win. It's hard to win a national championship. These guys put so much blood, sweat, and tears into it, and you saw finally that they were able to put it together. And yes, weeks ago, people were saying if he lost to Tennessee, well, he should be fired. Maybe just take a chill pill. Maybe just wait for things to play out and wait for the most loaded roster in college football to finally play up to its potential, which it did for the last 4 games and certainly did tonight.
I appreciate the preaching there because that's pretty darn right. I mean, that is spot on. And I will say, as a dad, it's not always about instant gratification. Sometimes you got to build things. Sometimes you got to build your Legos. You're not just going to build a quick car in 5 minutes. Sometimes you got to build the whole entire city. Okay? And Ryan Day has built back Columbus here, all right? You got to build them back up. That's what Ryan Day did. Have a day, Ryan Day. Have a day, Josh Pate. Have a day, Richard Johnson. Great work all season. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you every weekend here on CBS Sports HQ. Safe travels back home, my friends. 2 of the best in the business right there. And for more from Josh Pate, check out his college football show. There is no off season, okay? Join him 3 times a week on YouTube, 8 p.m. Eastern time. You can also listen to the podcast version as well. Josh Pate's College Football Show. Here with 2-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden and former Louisiana running back Emory Hunt. OH! I just probably popped the mic right there, but that's okay because I'm excited. And what we saw late game was white knuckles, all right? No, because let's set up the situation here, right? Buckeyes turn it over on a fumble. Notre Dame goes down and scores, right?
Yep.
They elect to kick the field goal. Then they force a punt. They score a touchdown. It gets hairy down there. First off, the decision to kick the field goal. What were your thoughts on that?
I understand the logic there by Coach Freeman because you want to put points on the scoreboard. And let's keep it real. It was a makeable field goal, and unfortunately they missed. And you look at where they were, guys. They were like on the 12 or 15-yard line, and it's 4th and goal, so you got to attack the end zone. Playing against that defense and they knowing exactly what you need to do, the likelihood of you scoring from that range was difficult. So taking the points, I thought was okay. Now, granted, it's different when you miss it.
I thought it was egregious.
Yeah, when you miss the kick, of course you get nothing out of it. But in terms of you thinking that it was egregious, you're on the 15-yard line, on the 12-yard line, right? I know you got to attack the end zone.
Make it a two-possession game.
Yeah, but worst case scenario, you thinking you go with a high percentage call, we're just trying to attempt a 20, 30-plus yard field goal and you miss it. And you ended up getting the football back.
Right.
Which makes the decision, extremely, alarming. And it still played in their favor because they still had an opportunity to get this game to go in extra periods.
Any normal passing offense, you go for it. But their offense is a struggle throwing the football outside of some big plays here or there. But I think that's where the biggest issue was. But points add up. I'm big on points adding up. And you're right, because at the end of the day, they would have had that opportunity to go and win the game
if they make the field goal.
Yeah. But again, because their passing offense was what it was all season, outside of the big chunk plays we saw later in this fourth quarter, these numbers don't tell the whole story of their passing game. That's why I feel like that's why they went for the field goal there.
So they score a touchdown, a 30-yard touchdown from Riley Leonard to Jaden Greathouse. It's an 8-point deficit, down 31-23 with 4 minutes left. Ohio State's next drive, 3rd and 11. And mind you, here in this situation, that Jeremiah Smith has not touched the football in the second half. What does Chip Kelly dial up on 3rd and 11? Man coverage. We go deep to Jeremiah Smith, 56 yards, and that essentially seals the game. The play call from Chip Kelly, that is going to go down as one of the greatest calls in college football playoff national championship game history.
No question. I love the call because that's what we call my man is better than your man football. If you're going to give us that matchup and you're stacking the box trying to prevent us from running the football, okay, we're going to take our shot. We believe our guy is good enough to make the play, not to mention with Will Howard just being able to hit a perfect pass for his pass catcher. So that was a defining play call, not to mention very, very aggressive, because if you don't get it, the clock stops. Notre Dame gets the football back with time on their side and with a timeout at their disposal. But Jeremiah Smith, to your point, he stated pregame, leading up to this game, if we see one-on-ones, we're going to take our shots. And if you see one-on-one Emory and Jeremiah's singled up and you have no middle safety, you have to take that shot. And I love the play call, and it was great execution by Will Howard.
What we talked about in pregame, timing is everything, and think players, not plays in these situations. And this was a situation where there was like, hey, our best guy against your best current cover corner, we trust him in this spot to go make a play to ice this game out, and they did just that. Just the fact that they went ahead and said, hey, Jeremiah Smith, go make the play. Make the plays that are there to be made. It was just a straight takeoff route. Gave him a little shimmy, but was able to just take off and show that speed and explosiveness, and he made the play.
Remember pregame we talked about who had the edge running back-wise? B-Mac, remember we had and you said Ohio State?
Yep.
It was Ohio State.
Yeah.
Quinshon Judkins had 3 total touchdowns. Trayvon Henderson was great. I mean, Riley Leonard ran the football, but outside of that, that was all they got from the run game. It was disappointing for Notre Dame.
Right, because they didn't even try to run the football with the backs. We were watching the game thinking about, well, why hasn't Price been involved in the run game? Because Price would have at least given you some health at the position. You know, you didn't want to run Jadarian Love, but at the end of the day, Price was still right there and able to do so and get to the edge and help you enhance your run game. So for me, not running the football, 53 yards rushing was more so about the lack of attempts, more so than Ohio State stuff in the run. But this was egregious offensively, in my opinion, for Notre Dame. They didn't bring the balance with their offensive attack. We saw what the first drive looked like. It was mostly Riley Leonard running the football. But if you saw Love not being able to be effective, go to Price and let him run the football. But getting away from it completely totally made them play left-handed, and that was a game that Ohio State was begging them to play. They did so, and they ended up winning the game because of it.
I didn't like the game plan for Notre Dame. We knew running the football would have to show up, and you showcased the ability with your quarterback in the first drive. He ran the football 9 times in the first drive, if I'm not mistaken, but we knew that was not sustainable, right? So, yes, you don't have a healthy Jeremiah Love, but Price can get it done. If you go back and look at the game that Jeremiah Love got injured in during the regular season against USC, guess who came in and sealed the deal and had over 100 yards running? Price. And we've seen what he's done given the opportunities, right? And he's a different style, but he's a guy who can lean on you, and he has a burst. I just felt like they panicked too quickly in this ball game and just abandoned the run. And to your point, Emory, throwing the football is not the vocal point of their offense. They don't have that type of quarterback. Riley Leonard is a serviceable quarterback, but the best thing that he does is the dirty work, right, with his legs. Throwing the football strategically through from the pocket isn't his strong suit. So just stay patient with the ground and pound attack. And I felt like that could have given them an opportunity to get back in this ball game with more than enough time on the clock to try to make it extremely interesting.
Yeah, Riley Leonard and Will Howard made history in this game. Leonard, the 9 carries on the opening touchdown drive. That was the most carries by a player on a single drive in CFP history. And then Will Howard completed his first 13 passes of the game, a national championship game record. And you saw the most critical pass that he completed was to Jeremiah Smith. And I take us back to that moment because that was what the difference was in this game. They were 9 for 12 on third down.
Yeah.
9 for 12. When you see a team convert on third down like that, what's your response?
That they're going to win the football game because they're staying on the field, they're sustaining drives. Think back to Notre Dame's opening drive when they had their best offensive success. What happened? They were converting on third downs. They converted a couple fourth downs.
Yep.
And if you're able to stay on the field, the other team can't get out there and do what they do offensively. So Ohio State did a great job. And I thought the biggest X factor in this ball game was the legs of Will Howard. We came in talking about Riley Leonard and how he runs the football, but it was Will Howard's ability to run the ball that opened things up with the passing game for him. So he was unaccosted in the pocket, had time to throw, but when he took off and ran, it was decisive. He was judicious in winning where he was going to run the ball. And I thought his legs were the true story of this ball game. Big reason why Ohio State's offense looked like it looked until the last drive when they threw it down to Jeremiah Smith. But it was Will Howard's legs to me that really turned this game on his head.
To your point, 16 carries for 50-plus yards. And a lot of his running came on third down opportunities where they were just solely in man-to-man, and everyone had their back to the pocket of the quarterback, and he just saw a free lane, and he took off. This was Will Howard's, I don't want to say his best game because what he did against Oregon was outstanding, but I can tell you this much. He put together like a Joe Flacco playoff run that led to a championship.
Great
The
call.
best football that we've watched from Will Howard all happened in the playoffs. Because you think about the last time we saw Will Howard play in regular season football was against Michigan, where he didn't put forth his best effort. The entire team didn't. But what he did in the playoff, he hit the light switch, he never looked back, and he saved his best for last in what he did tonight against a high-level defensive team in Notre Dame. I mean, when you look at what they did throughout the entire playoffs, I mean, Tennessee, you had to respect their defense, especially their front. Didn't have an answer for Will Howard. You look at what Oregon did. We know Oregon had some outstanding players, prospects on their defense, didn't have a shot. I mean, throughout the playoffs, Will Howard, he earned a lot of money in terms of an NFL potential career just throughout this playoff run. So hats off to him because he lived up to the billing and he delivered big time. And to your point, that third down play, number one, it's a gutsy call for Chip Kelly. Number two, you have to believe your quarterback can get the job done because you didn't question, can your wide receiver get open? Singled up, we know Jeremiah Smith is going to get open. But if you watch that play and you know what the call is before it actually happens, you feel like it will work if Will Howard puts the football where he needs to put the football at. He did that, not just that play, guys, but the entire night.
And it's crazy when you think about Will Howard and how things are setting up, and you want to be playing your best football at the right time. So he goes to this amazing playoff run. He wins the national championship, and in about a week and a half, he'll be playing down in Mobile at the Reese's Senior Bowl in front of all these scouts and personnel decision makers. So he is trending in the right direction, and it was capped off tonight by an amazing performance, both as a dual threat for Ohio State.
And one thing I'd like to highlight on that defining third down play, because that basically won the game. There were a lot of different plays that led up, but when you look at the timing of that play and the minutes left on the clock, that was a defining play that led to the victory. With Jeremiah Smith being a true freshman, he's a very experienced route runner. And the thing that I love in that situation, guys, I'm going to paint the picture for you. One-on-one coverage, corner is playing off technique. He's already head up to inside in terms of his leverage. But what Jeremiah Smith did was so smart. He threatened the leverage of the corner. So what the corner did, which is not technically sound, he backpedaled inside. So Jeremiah Smith was trying to create field for Will Howard to complete the football, which is super strategic, instinctive, and not to mention in terms of him being a true freshman, you don't usually see that from college wide receivers, better yet, true freshman wide receivers. That's an NFL savvy move because I'm trying to move you off your spot so I can create room for an easier pass to be completed from the quarterback. And they hit him right dead in the breadbasket. And not to mention, he wasn't straddling the fence of the sideline. He had more than enough room to be able to complete that pass with his quarterback.
Because that's where I was going to go with it in terms of, like, if I'm playing defensive back and I know I have the sideline as my friend, I'm going to take away the inside. So why would I even jump at your move? He stemmed him up and had him sacrifice his leverage, and then he created that room because we know now that's what you want, where the quarterback can throw it to where outside the numbers in between that hash and the sideline, and he did a great job putting it out there.
That catch hit the over on longest reception for Jeremiah Smith. Hit the over that I had for receiving yards because he got to 88, and he had the touchdown. So if he had an anytime touchdown for Jeremiah Smith, that cashed as well. He's the projected #1 overall pick in 2027. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there right now.
Smart man.
So I'm going to put that out there. What I want to ask you now, because you know me as an Ohio State fan, and I say I will trade this national championship for that loss to Michigan. Because I texted Josh Pate earlier in the day. I said, this might be blasphemous, but I 100% will trade the loss to Michigan for a natty. They don't hang banners for beating that team up north. You get gold pants to beat Michigan. You get a gold ring when you win the national championship, all right? So I'm going to sit here and say, does it stink to beat Michigan? Yes. Does it stink to lose to an underachieving Michigan team this past season? Yes. 4 straight losses. But Michigan still owns the series. So it wasn't like Ohio State was going to catch them this year anyway. You won a national championship. You answered back. Michigan won it last year. Ohio State wins it this year. You answer back. So for me, as a Buckeye fan, and some people, I can't believe you'd say that. It's a national title.
Yes.
So my question to you is, not being an Ohio State fan, how do you view this?
I view this as a season that they lived up to the expectations, because coming into this season, we all feel like this was the most talented roster in college football. It was one of the more expensive rosters as well, so they should be able to get to the promised land. We felt like they would do so, being able to win their conference in the Big Ten and also beating Michigan. But that didn't happen. But it still doesn't put any blemishes on what they did in terms of winning the Natty. I'll say this, though, in terms of Ohio State fans, we know how much you hate Michigan. No question, that's what college football is about. Hated rivalries, right? But this still is a great team with a great season. But they will not go down as an all-time great because they did not beat Michigan. I think you can fathom losing or not winning the Big Ten title, but still beating Michigan and also winning the national title. I think that would make Buckeye fans really feel good about the entire season. But to your point, you have some Buckeye fans that would rather beat Michigan and not win a national title. That's just their thinking process. I think it's more about, to your point, I would rather win a national title and just sacrifice losing to my rival to get the ultimate goal, reach the ultimate goal, which is the ring, the championship, because we forever will remember this championship team, right? You don't think about who won, and I understand in terms of Ohio State Buckeye fans and Michigan fans, you probably remember who won the rivalry 10 years ago, but most casual football fans don't. But we remember who won the national championship 10 years ago, and that's how the thought process is.
Yeah, and here's what I thought, man. It's funny because they were the preseason favorite, but my preseason pick to win a national championship was Texas. And then during the season, I kind of shifted and was like, okay, I can see Notre Dame beating Oregon in a national title. Ohio State beat all 3 of these teams by double digits. Kudos to Ohio State getting the job done, making it to the end of the line, and doing what you needed to do to get to the end and hold that trophy up as national
They just won't be considered an all-time great team, though.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
You know who
They're
Ohio State plays to start next season?
Texas.
Texas. Ohio State and Texas to kick off their season. That's week 2. That's week 2. You had it right, though. That's week 2.
That's week 2, right?
Yeah, see?
Because why y'all playing Grambling?
They got to give them some money. That's a money game.
8 seed.
Right? It's a money game. That's a money game. Ohio State money on this night. They're going to get some money for their conference. And Ohio State, as you take a look at the national champions that did not win their conference, this is the 5th time this has happened. Alabama a couple of times. I guess conference championships, maybe they don't matter anymore. I still think they matter, but no. This year for Ohio State, it didn't matter. They were rested and ready as they rip off 4 straight wins, ultimately capturing the national championship.